Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to talk about something interesting, and the theme today is don't let your desk job defeat you. Hey guys, this is Dr. Nene. I practice as a cardiothoracic, vascular, and general surgeon in the US for almost 20 years, some of the most rewarding years of my life. I now have an opportunity to work as a health tech innovator whose goal is simple: to improve lives and lifestyles by increasing awareness and access to world-class international medical standards. This channel is a part of that effort, and the idea is to explore the best practices in healthcare globally. So join me on our journey to make the world a better place. In the pandemic, more than any other time in our lives, people were stuck in front of a screen on Zoom constantly, and they weren't getting out. But for a large share of workers, they have to do all of their work in front of a screen or alternatively at a desk. And today's theme is basically how do you prevent getting some of the issues which are commonly associated with desk jobs. Back pain and neck pain are on the rise. And these are consistently things which are associated with working at the desk. In addition to that, you can have eye strain, you can also have carpal tunnel, you can have other things. Today, what we're gonna do is talk about some of these things and how to prevent them, and how to keep an eye on them if they start to occur, and how to solve these issues. So welcome back, and let's get going. It's difficult to avoid sitting at a desk, whether you're a student, whether you're an employee, whether you're a worker. But integrated good habits like stretching and exercise and a healthy lifestyle, in addition to how you sit, your posture, the height of everything, are critical. So what are the critical parts for me? I was in this about 6 years ago, transitioning from a clinical cardiac surgeon to someone who runs companies. I found myself at a desk job to some degree. And we were analyzing things, doing quite a few things. And what happened during that period is a number of things. One is I was more sedentary than I'd ever been. As an operating clinical surgeon, I was making rounds, I was standing on my feet, I was fairly active. As a person who worked at the desk as a CEO and MD, I found myself more often than not taking phone calls, researching things on the internet, and then also doing presentations, which required a lot of sitting at a desk as well. And so the things which went awry were certainly diet, because a lot of times we would not eat and would be so perplexed with what we were doing at our screen that we would sort of move ahead. But more importantly, we'd find ourselves staring at the screen for long periods of time without any type of break. And I think for most of us who just went through the pandemic, you can certainly relate to that. So I wanted to put together a few rules on what you can do to help. The first is posture. Make sure that your neck is not crooked or straining. And if you see in this particular application, I put my laptop on a stand. Why? Because then I'm looking straight at your screen, and you can adjust this one. In today's desktop monitors, most of them have the ability to go up and down, and you can change that. But if that's not the case, choose a chair which can move up and down so that you're looking right at your screen and it doesn't cause your neck to hyper flex or hyperextend, because that will keep you from having neck issues. The second thing is your posture. Make sure your feet are squarely on the ground and that your legs are bent at 90 degrees, not at some obtuse angle. Don't go stretching back or doing other things. The next is use an orthotic chair if you can find one. I've gotten one of these fancy Herman Miller designs, but there's many out there right now which support not only your lumbar spine so that you have a normal curvature, but also support your legs and your back. The next one's kind of obvious. Your maximum attention span is probably somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes. And so as a rule of thumb, every 25 to 30 minutes, get up. Spend 2-3 minutes walking around the room. because that will keep you from putting lots of strain on your spinal column, as well as your glutes and your hamstrings, as well as keeping your neck and back stretched and moving. And so practice that. Every 30 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on your tolerance, get up and walk around. That'll also help you with other things, including your cardiovascular health, preventing you from getting DVTs, and preventing you from doing a couple of things just by moving around. Next, choose what you eat and make sure that you're optimally hydrated. Those two things alone in a desk job could save your life. Make sure that you're eating at intervals and don't forget to eat. More importantly, take a snack break once in a while with healthy snacks. And I've given this in another video, but make sure that your water intake is adequate. Don't wait until you're thirsty, because then it's too late. In males, it's about 3.7 liters per day that you need to take in, and in females, it's about 2.7 liters. And that changes depending on the weather, the temperature, what you're wearing in some cases, an air-conditioned office, or alternatively, if you are exerting yourself. And in a desk job, you're not really exerting yourself, so you won't need to have a lot of additional water intake, but you gotta make sure that you keep up with that. An easy way to tell if you're keeping up is if you are having to use the restroom, and you should go half of what you're taking in. If you take a small bolus, is what we call it, a small, large intake of fluid, and that'll test to whether you're hydrating adequately. Other than that, people have asked me a few critical questions. Is a standing desk better? Is a treadmill desk better? Well, I don't know about you guys, but I find a treadmill desk to be very tricky to navigate, because it is distracting, and it doesn't allow me to focus on what I'm doing. And I would much rather take a break and go and walk around a little bit, go to the water cooler, or go outside and take a breath of fresh air, rather than being on a treadmill. The second thing is with standing desks. These were all the rage, and they were selling like hotcakes in the Bay Area. When we looked up the data on them, it's not consistent in suggesting that your outcomes are better. One thing is true, that if you were to compare sitting at desk for extended periods of time for your neck and your back versus on a standing desk, you may have a better outcome. But in a standing desk, there also is a higher risk of varicose veins and things like that. Overall, when they compared the two in various studies, we weren't able to identify a clear-cut benefit from one versus the other, provided you take the care which I've indicated. And so at this point in my life, I've taken these initiatives, and I had no choice, because I was getting humongous pain in my lumbar spine as well as in my C-spine. And as an operating surgeon for 20 years with loops and whatnot, it's very common for heart surgeons to have issues with degenerative disc disease. And then as an athlete my whole life, I had pounded my spine. And so this is something you'll have to take into account, that transitioning from someone who's very active to someone who's not is difficult sometimes, and you may gain pounds, you may have other issues which you have to keep in check with how you eat and how you exercise. We'll talk about that in another video. But particularly in a desk job, you have to make sure you're active at least part of the time, and then make sure your posture is there. So in summary, make sure you maintain the best posture, and that you have your eye position supported, your back position supported, and you have great orthotic seating. By the way, that's true for anyone with back pain for anything you do, whether it's car seating or home couches or anything. Don't get them too low where you're not at 90 degrees, or too deep where your legs are in an awkward position, because you will find you have back pain. Next, take breaks and stretch, and make sure that you're stretching your hamstrings, your quads, the back of your upper leg, the front of your upper leg, your back, and your shoulders and your neck. And that will ensure that you don't have issues. Every 30 minutes, 3 minutes up is critical. And the funny part is, on my new watches, the smart watches and whatnot, it kind of tells you that it's time to stand. There's a reason for that, and we're kind of going through it. And then when you're working away, don't snack compulsively and just eat willy-nilly. Plan it so that you don't get hungry and you just eat the wrong things. And then finally, keep your feet on the floor, 90 degrees, and keep your head straight so that it's facing your screen at the right height so you're not bending or stretching. One thing we've not talked about is carpal tunnel syndrome, and the interesting part is you used to see a lot of this when people were at typing and putting pressure on their carpal tunnels, and it occurs when the median nerve, which goes to your hand, is constricted by the carpal tunnel, and it happens in people who have extension jobs as well as typists who are there. There's various ways to contend. If you can see on this thing, it has a little bridge so that your hand is elevated. But similarly, you can get these soft pads so that they're not resting down at a hyperacute angle. In the worst case, if you are getting it, they can get you extension braces, which you use, and that'll actually help with the symptoms. If you're still having issues, you need to go see a doc, because in some cases they have to do different interventions or even an operation. But you can avoid some of this with taking these preventative measures. Anyway, this pretty much sums it up, and this kind of helps you with how to avoid letting your desk job defeat you. It's not comprehensive, and we've included links in the description below on what other things you need to contend with. For me, it helped me a ton, and I would say even for you guys out there who have to work in front of a computer or at a desk job, it will help you. Leave the comments you have below. I would love to see what questions you have. And as always, don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, the bell icon, as well as sharing this with all your friends. Hope this helped. It was great talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, and hope you don't have any issues with your back, your neck, and with everything else you get with desk jobs. Take care.